Hello everyone, I'm Jay. Welcome to Forbidden Files. In the literature of deduction, there is a classic case pattern, known as the snowstorm villa model. In these works, the case will take place in an enclosed space. People can't get in touch with the outside world. The killer is among the people at the scene. The killer has to be found through search and deduction under limited conditions. Have you ever imagined what it would be like if this pattern happened in reality? Today I will tell you a snowstorm villa model case that happened in reality, death in Antarctica. One day in early May 2000, maintenance specialist Sonia Walter had been in Antarctica with the scientific research team for half a year. She met the love of her life, Rodney Marks, here. This day, she was waiting in the Amundsen South Pole Station for her boyfriend to enjoy dinner together. But when Rodney showed up, she found that he was not looking good. He seemed to be constantly changing methods to maintain his breath. His face and expression were not as vibrant as usual. Rodney jokingly complained to Sonia that he might have been working too hard. He felt uncomfortable and his eyes were sore and itchy. But his words couldn't fool Sonia, who had been living with him for months. She felt Rodney was barely hanging, so she urged him to go to bed early. Maybe he would be fine tomorrow. Rodney had to listen to his girlfriend and went to his room early. But Rodney didn't feel better over the night. Instead, he felt worse. He kept feeling uncomfortable. And he started having a fever, feeling sick. His stomach ached all the time. He couldn't sleep all night. Early in the next morning, Sonia took him to the medical center of the station, but the doctor didn't see anything unusual from Rodney. He believed Rodney's condition was a result of the fact that he loved drinking. The doctor told him not to worry and he should rest. Although Sonia and Rodney were skeptical about the doctor's judgment, they couldn't think of any other causes. After all, Rodney was in his prime, and he was always healthy and energetic. He had never had health issues. However, at 5:30 am on May 12th, Rodney woke up from his sleep and he spat out a lot of blood. Sonia was shocked. They went to the doctor 3 times in one day, but each time Rodney's condition became worse. The pain was burning his joints and stomach. He was in pain when walking and eating. His eyes were no longer just sore and itchy. They were very sensitive. Even without the sun for several weeks during polar night, he had to wear sunglasses. As his health conditions deteriorated, Rodney became very agitated. The 3rd time he went to the doctor gave Rodney an antipsychotic shot to calm him down. After taking the drug, Rodney seemed to feel better, which made Sonia, the amateur, felt a bit relieved. But the doctor knew it could not be good. As expected, shortly after that, Rodney had cardiac arrest. The 45-minute CPR attempt failed to bring him back. At 6:45 p.m., the doctor pronounced Rodney Marks dead. Sonia couldn't accept it and burst into tears. The deceased's full name was Rodney David Marks, an astrophysicist from Australia. Early in 1994, when he first arrived in the Antarctic continent, he fell in love with this white world and pure sky. And it is also the closest place to the universe. So after returning to his country, he kept looking for opportunities to go to the Antarctic continent again. Finally, in November 1999, a scientific expedition team of 250 people landed in Antarctica. In this team, Rodney was the only operator of the submillimeter telescope and the telemetry observatory. But as a scientist, Rodney really looked a little different. He was only 32 years old, and he always had a juvenile spirit. He was kind and energetic, which was very special in a team dedicated to scientific research. In Antarctica, the uninhabited place, he created 2 metal bands with some friends, and dyed his hair purple. Rodney also liked drinking alcohol. He was a heavy drinker, but he was not an alcoholic. He just liked drinking. Although his unique personality didn't let him get along with his colleagues, it won him the heart of Sonia Walter, the team's maintenance specialist. Soon they fell in love. In winter, temperature in Antarctica plummeted, so many researchers returned to their countries. There were only 50 members remained at the station. Sonia had planned to go back home after winter, but because Rodney wanted to stay there for a while, she chose to stay with him in the station. It was said that they had decided to get married after going back home, and neither of them denied it. Sonia never thought her lover had gone in such short notice. She wanted to know more about Rodney's cause of death. The doctor who treated Rodney was Robert Thompson. He only treated living patients, so he was not good at autopsy. He could only make preliminary judgment that her boyfriend died of an unknown disease. It could be a serious heart attack or stroke. There were only infinite nights and darkness during polar night. The station could communicate with the outside world, but couldn't get any help. When the National Science Foundation was informed of the situation, it was announced that Rodney's death was of natural causes. The station members first put Rodney's body in a maintenance area within the station. The low temperature could preserve the body until winter ended. But Sonia was against it. She believed it was disrespectful to Rodney. He loved the Antarctic sky and the universe so much, so he should at least rest in peace under the Aurora. The other 49 members collected some materials and made a casket. Although they knew the body would be sent away after a while, they put the body in the ice tomb near the station. Until the end of October 2000, when Antarctic and New Zealand flights resumed. On 30th October, a plane transported the body from Amundsen Scott South Pole Station to Christchurch, New Zealand. After the autopsy, the forensic gave a shocking result. Rodney did not die of natural causes. The autopsy report showed he ingested about 150 milliliters of methanol, about the amount of a glass of wine. Methanol is a bit sweet, it is colorless and highly toxic. It means that methanol can be easily put into someone's drinks. The station would use methanol when cleaning and assembling telescopes. It was usually stored in a specific cabinet. But why did Rodney drink deadly amount of methanol? Was it actually a murder? Sonia couldn't help wondering. Soon she got in touch with Grant Walmart, a New Zealand police officer. In fact, early in June, the New Zealand police received an order to investigate Rodney's death. Grant asked Sonia if she had kept and sealed Rodney's office and room. But unfortunately, the answer was no at that time. Everyone believed Rodney died of natural causes, so only some of his personal belongings were kept. They had gotten rid of other seemingly irrelevant things. Rodney's office had been used by other scientists. Sonia spent the whole winter in Rodney's room alone. Grant felt that the situation was kinda tricky, but it was not like he got nothing to do. According to the report of the New Zealand Herald, some professionals criticized the station's doctor, Robert Thompson. Because the infirmary at the station was equipped with a blood analyzer, which could detect dangerous levels of methanol in a patient's body, and could notify the doctor to take appropriate treatment measures. If the device was used, Rodney's life might be saved. Robert explained that the analyzer's battery had run out at that time. After shutting down, it would need 9 hours to restart and calibrate. When Rodney got sick, the device happened to be off. Meanwhile, he released a strange finding to the press. He found 2 fresh needle marks on Rodney's right arm. All these new clues led Grant to believe it was not that simple. At first, he thought there was something special about the location of the incident, and there were only 49 members in the station. If he got support from the National Science Foundation, he would very likely find the truth. To his surprise, the biggest obstacle to the investigation came from the US official. After the autopsy was complete, all 49 members of the station went back to their countries, scattered across the world. Grant hoped the foundation could provide their contact and other information obtained during the investigation. But the foundation refused to do so with all kinds of excuses. He also requested to check a few clues collected in Rodney's room and office, but that was refused by the foundation too. The U.S. Department of Justice also deemed Grant's investigation to be an unofficial investigation. He was only allowed to contact the foundation directly, seeking the help they were willing to offer. Rodney's father was furious about this. He made a statement that if it had been an American citizen, the FBI would easily find out the truth without any obstacles. But a father's voice clearly couldn't affect the decision of the authority. The foundation remained silent, in the hope of letting it go. But Grant insisted on the investigation. He said if something happened to my kid on the job, then someone had to be responsible for the truth. In 2006, under Grant's harassing request, the foundation gave a green light on the investigation of the 49 members in the personal name of Detective Sergeant Grant Walmart. And to avoid the foundation's interference, he had to attach a note in the letter saying cooperating with the investigation was not mandatory. In the end, Grant got only 13 letters in response. Some key witnesses didn't even respond. Even Sonia had already given up the investigation. He said maybe it was just a strange tragedy. To pursue it would only damage Rodney's image. It should end there. Grant had no other clues and channels for further investigation. He could only give 4 inferences based on the information available. First, Rodney committed suicide using methanol, but Grant also pointed out suicide was the most unlikely explanation for the young scientist's death. Because he was doing what he loved, he found his love, there was no reason for suicide. Second, he drank the alcohol with methanol for excitement and entertainment, but Rodney was not an alcoholic. He had no addiction. As a researcher and experienced alcohol enthusiast, he should be aware of the danger of methanol. And when he was sick, he was as confused as the other members, which showed he didn't know he had poison in his system. Third, he ingested methanol by accident. In fact, one of the 13 response letters he received said Rodney brought an oddly shaped and unnamed bottle of wine back in the station. According to the World Health Organization, more than 300 people die each year from ingesting unregulated, illegally prepared alcohol. All these cases involve methanol poisoning. So maybe drinking illegally prepared fake booze led to his death. But no evidence could support this inference, even there was any. It had been disposed of by the scientific staffs and the foundation. Fourth, someone deliberately put methanol in Rodney's drink. If it were true, then it's easy to think of the drug use that existed in the research stations. Although the foundation always had a zero tolerance for drugs on the base, and regulated access to and consumption of alcohol, the policy has never been fully complied with. Sonia and some members knew all the time that some people did smoke or inject drugs at the station. Maybe the needle marks on Rodney's right arm had something to do with this. This inference could explain why the foundation kept silent from the beginning. Because if Rodney's death were found out drug-related, it would be a very serious scandal, which would be a PR nightmare for the foundation. Their best way to handle this is to let it cool down, and keep everything calm. As the New Zealand police received pressure from the US State Department, the investigation ended. Ultimately, there was no conclusion whether Rodney was killed or died of natural causes. If he was killed, the killer not only lived with others at ease, but also showed sorrow and pity toward Rodney's death. It is too horrible to contemplate. I hope someday people can find out the truth to give the family of the deceased a sense of closure.